What is up, guys? Today Fortnite just made balance changes to chapter 7, and I'm going to be going over everything you need to know. As always, if you guys do find this video to be helpful, informative, or interesting, remember to give it a like, subscribe if you'd like to see more, comment down below what you think of these changes, and if you guys would like to use my code in the shop when getting anything, it is EvolveJake, just like my channel name is, and it is underneath the webcam at all times. So the first change they made today is going to be that self-revive was buffed. It will now take 8 seconds to revive yourself rather than 10 seconds. So this is 2 seconds quicker than it previously was. And it now costs 2,000 gold at vending machines rather than 2,500. And I think this is a change that, while it is an improvement, it doesn't change how I feel about the item at all. I think as someone who mostly plays solos, this is something that is incredibly situational. And most of the time, the largest impact it has on the game is that the person who knocks the person who has self-revive just gets like griefed a little bit. Like the person who's using self-revive, I feel like, is very rarely ever able to get it off in solos. And then even if they do, taking, now 8 seconds just to revive themselves and then coming back with 30 HP and being defenseless is something that, while you maybe get the res off, I feel like your chances of actually getting away and healing and all that resetting is incredibly low. So how I feel about self-res wasn't changed with this update. I think it's always something that has had more value in team game modes. And again, this is a buff. It's nice. It's going to be better when you have it. But I still don't think it's going to be like so fast that it drastically changes things. It just got a little bit better and a little bit cheaper. So self-revive, slight buff, but not something that like completely redefines the item. They also changed how surfing works. So yesterday they brought back the battle bus. But not every game you play in BR is going to be a battle bus start. You'll still have some matches where you start wave surfing. And in those matches where you start wave surfing, you will now be launched higher, giving you more opportunity to glide around. And this is something that is helpful for people who want like a little more freedom to decide where they want to go, or maybe want to land at somewhere that's a little less contested. But being somebody who doesn't really care that much about that, I usually just land at whatever POI is next to me and then I go about my day. This is something that doesn't change too much for me. I'm still just going to glide back down and get glider lock at the lowest altitude I can, and then hopefully hit the ground as early as possible. I think this, in combination with hitting the top of the wave as you get sent to get sent even higher, is something that would be changed by this, because that was a way to get higher before. Now they just increased how much you get launched. So in theory, you'll go even higher when you do that trick. And you should have, again, more freedom to decide where you want to go. So if you are someone who prefers a more low-key drop, this update, made that more possible for you with the wave landing. But it's not like it's something that's going to be affecting every game, because the vast majority of the matches you play, you're going to be jumping from the battle bus now anyways. One change that I think may affect how people feel about the game a lot is going to be that the spawn rate of shockwaves was reduced. While playing today after the update, I didn't notice too significant of a change. But what happened is they reduced the spawn rate of shockwaves by 40% in floor loot and 10% in chests. And just seeing how the community has reacted to this, people are pretty upset. But I think I definitely had times where off spawn, I shoot one bullet at somebody and then they just already have like 4 shockwaves to run away. And I feel like this is something that's mostly going to affect the early game, with it being a largely floor loot change. And I've also seen a lot of people saying this season that they want the shield spawn rate to be increased. Well, nerfing the spawn rate of shockwaves, especially in chests, is like an indirect buff to the shield items. Because the way chests work, you get a weapon, you get ammo for that weapon, and then you get a heal or a utility item. So getting less of the utility item, shockwaves, or one of the potential utility items, you're going to get something else instead. And so you may end up getting shielded more frequently off spawn because of this. Either way, though, I don't think the chest spawn rate change was like significant enough to really notice one way or the other. And then the floor loot change, while it was pretty significant, it wasn't playing out in my matches as if it was significant, because while playing today, I was still able to get shockwaves pretty consistently. It wasn't like an absolute struggle to get them. And also playing against other players, it seems like a majority of the people I ran into still had shockwaves. So it's not like it's going to be something where you just never see shockwaves again. There's no mobility this season. I don't think that's the case at all. They brought it down a little bit. They still seemed very plentiful to me while playing. And if you guys watch any of my content, I'm a huge shockwave fanboy. So I'm fine with this change. Cars will now also start at max fuel. So a lot of people were complaining that the cars were running out of gas too easily this season. They'll now start at max fuel. If you get in a car that's, a fresh car that no one has entered yet, it will be full. The drivable reboot van will now also consume less fuel when boosting. That is only for the drivable reboot van. All of the other cars, nothing was changed with boosting. This was a change that, again, I don't think was a huge impact on the game. It's not like every match I played, there was a bunch of cars. Seemed like the same amount of cars on average. And I don't think the problem with cars this season was that, like, they were spawning with too little gas. I feel like the cars just run out much faster this season. And so starting them with a little bit more, like, sure, that helps, but you're still going to run out pretty quick, which personally I prefer I like how little impact cars seem to have this season compared to previous seasons where, like, in Chapter 5 and 6, it seemed like a majority of players you would run into are just in a car driving away. So I personally like the reduction in cars this season. And this, while they do now start with max fuel, which is going to be a little bit more helpful, it's not like the entire end game was just cars again. The Enforcer AR had its aim assist range increased from 250 meters to 275 meters. This is something that's hard for me to judge because I haven't used the Enforcer AR very much this season, but I did play a game with it today and it felt fine. But I would still just rather have the Deadeye AR pretty much in every circumstance because the red dot is just, incredibly helpful. And also the way ranged fights play out, I would like to have the red dot, and the Enforcer AR is like a slow fire rate, high damage AR. It's trying to be more of a ranged option. So making the third person AR try to be like a ranged weapon to compete with a red dot AR, I feel like just doesn't really work very well. And I feel like Fortnite is best if we're going to have red dot ARs in the loot pool. I think it's best when they're more long range oriented and not very versatile. And then the versatile option is the third person AR. I feel like the Fury AR was a good example of this, and the Red Eye AR in Chapter 4 was, in my opinion, a good example of how the Red Dot AR should be. It was good at long range, it was good at medium range, but up close you were going to struggle with it. If the Red Dot AR is good at all ranges and very versatile, it leaves little desire to really use the third-person ARs, and that's kind of how I still feel this season with the Enforcer AR getting a slight buff. We'll see maybe down the line if the Deadeye AR starts to get some nerfs or starts to get like more recoil added to it. Maybe then the Enforcer AR will, be a little bit more viable, but I still think most people are going to prefer the Deadeye AR. The Wonky Land shooting game can now only be done twice per match. Previously, it was 4 times per match. So this is a slight nerf to the Wonky Land POI. If you were someone that was just spamming that minigame, you can't do it as many times now. And finally, for reload mode, they made some changes to the loot pool, surprisingly, even though there was just a reload update yesterday. The tactical pistol, the Enforcer AR, and the Deadeye AR were all added to the loot pool in reload. And then the Flapjack AR, the Burst AR, the Sweeper Shotgun, the Revolver, the 6-shooter, and the Rapid Fire SMG were all vaulted in reload. So we had some older weapons removed and then some Chapter 7 items added to the loot pool in reload. But that is going to be it for this balance update. Little underwhelming in my opinion. When I saw they were making a balance update, because Fortnite kind of teased it ahead of time, I was really hoping we would maybe get a nerf to like the twin hammer shotguns, but that unfortunately did not happen. And then everything else was just kind of like fine. Like I said, it changed some things, but didn't drastically redefine how I feel about the season. It's not like the shockwave spawn rate was like super significantly changed, and it's not like self-res is super overpowered anymore. Everything's at about the same relative power level. There's just some slight adjustments, but let me know what you guys think down in the comments below. If you enjoyed this, give it a like, subscribe if you'd like to see more, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Thanks for watching.